larger than life. He'll give you strife. He's Todd. He's tall, he's mean. He's labeling machine. He's Todd. Rides a motorbike. He'll tell you what it's like. He's Todd. Don't know what he'll say. He'll scare the kids away. He's Todd. He's Todd.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thanks again to Mr. Dan Cobb for that lovely intro. Love that tune. So I hope everyone's doing well out there this morning, this afternoon. It's already been a long week here, coming live to you from Carlsbad, California. The sun's out today. We're going through this May gray, June gloom type of stuff, but it's going to turn out to be a really good day. So everything this week is all about 606C, and I've got a presentation that I'm going to share with you, but I'm not going to bore you to death with this thing. It is somewhat of a boring subject, but hopefully you get a little something out of it, and I'll go through kind of a little bit of the history of the standard, the labeling standard, and kind of end up to where we are right now. With that being said, as I do every week, I want to introduce Mr. Jamie Brookover, and don't mind his microphone this week. The tightwad won't go out and spend enough money on a decent mic. But Mr. Jamie Brookover is going to be in the background. He's going to be answering all your questions, comments, concerns. The other thing I'd like to ask is that I have enough material, at least slated, through July 18th, and we're going to take the 4th off, thank God. I know everyone's getting zoomed out. I don't even watch this stuff, but I'm getting zoomed out myself. So we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus during the 4th holiday. But the other thing I'm looking for is that if there's anything specific or any other topics that you'd like me to discuss, let Jamie know. We're always open to that stuff. So Jamie, throw yourself back up on camera again. I know I just saw you. No, wait, no, there you are. Hey, man, the Rogaine is working, all right? It looks lovely. Jamie, do you want to share your story about the tattoo, your latest tattoo?
No, we're not going to do that. That's
okay, all right. Well, hey, Jamie got a new tattoo, and if you ask him in the Q&A, I'm sure he'll be able to tell you what it is and where it is. So, with that being said, Jamie's in the background. He's going to answer your questions. So I'm going to share this presentation. Again, this isn't going to be so much hands-on. We're going to go through this rather quickly. I'm going to share the screen with you now. Again, as I'm mowing through this, because this is going to be part of our 606C course, that as of, I think it's next week, Miss Angie Palmer is working on getting the 606C course that will give you BICSI accreditation CECs. That will be up very, very shortly. I know we're finishing up the audio portion and so forth and whatnot. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into the 606. I'm going to share a screen. I'll put it into, hopefully I can get this right. Let's go here. Let's try it again. All right. So 606 was developed as a labeling standard many, many years ago. And what it is and what it was designed to do was give some type of flow to the labeling process. And it does work if you use it. And I'll give you a great example is that several years ago, I went out to a major college here in the Los Angeles area. And the guy actually wanted a bigger label, a wider label. And I asked why. And he was using 5 lines of information as far as his labeling scheme. And he wanted an 1.5-inch label to be able to put more lines of information on there. Now, keep in mind is that is also proprietary. So as a former contractor, I've actually made a lot of money going in and teaching 606 and implementing 606. Because if one IT guy goes, he takes that proprietary information with him, especially if the cable management, the records are not good. So this whole idea of 606, again, just gives some familiarity. I know I hammered that word. But we're going to raffle through this. This is the presentation. We will be able to share this presentation with you ahead of time, but you can also get the CECs later on. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, please ask Mr. Jamie Brookover. But there's how I look, actually cleaned up. I think there was a funeral that day. I'm not sure. A little bit about me again. Bixie wanted me to put this stuff on the presentation, blah, blah, blah. This is how wonderful I am. Let's go beyond that. So what is 606C? It's the administration standard for the telecommunications infrastructure. All right, and it assigns identifiers, and again, they're common identifiers, and there's different classes of administration within 606C. And 606C, I'll go through some of the changes, but you know, it started off as EIA, TIA, ANSI 606 way back then, and then throughout the years, and there's been all these changes implemented to where we are right now. So again, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time on each one of these slides. We've only got a half an hour. But you know, what is 606C? It extends the marking standards within the ANSI TIA 606A. And again, as technology develops and infrastructure develops and things are added on, all right, stacked on each other, it's the common denominator for labeling. Now, it isn't mandatory that you use 606 standards, but it sure makes a lot of sense. And once you and your techs understand how 606 works, 606C, it makes identification and troubleshooting a lot easier. And that's the whole point behind this, is to make life a lot easier when you're out trying to identify your infrastructure. And it even goes into OSP as well, but we're gonna talk about, or at least building entrance, we're gonna talk about primarily the infrastructure. Your labels say a lot about you. You know, last week we talked about different types of labels. I still see this and what you're seeing on the screen every day. Well, not anymore. When I'm out in the field selling this stuff, whether I'm in a data center, and yes, I've seen stuff like this in data centers when I'm in just a janitor's closet, that still exists. An MDF, an ITC, whatever the acronym is now, I still see stuff like this. So again, your labeling says a lot about you as a professional organization. Different approaches. You know, you've got the first example up in the upper right-hand corner is a Sharpie written on some tape. Hey, I still see that. Now, can you identify it? Sure, you can identify it if you don't shake like this. If your writing's clear, but again, it just it doesn't look good, right? So you want a printed professional label at the end of the day that is legible and easy to see. You know, when you're putting it on a cable, or if you're putting a flag on there, you have to make it easy to see for that tech coming in or the IT guy coming in to identify that, if you will. What I hope you take away from this today, again, we're going to compress this into a half an hour, but is an understanding of the standards, a basic understanding, and then using the right labels in the right tool to accomplish what you're trying to as far as your labeling is concerned. You know what, again, this is part of the presentation. This is a list of what's new within 606C. A lot of the acronyms have changed, and that's the main thing, but we've added things like fire stopping, and there's more emphasis on that, and the grounding and bonding. Let me get out of this slide. Here's something that's a little easier to understand as far as the significant changes from 606B to where we are right now. And there's been some acronyms replaced. There's been more guidelines for administration of cabling that supports remote powering, added along with cable bundle identifiers. And then there has been some things that are removed. If you've ever seen, you know, the actual 606 labeling standard, again, trying to compress all that into a half hour is very difficult, but we'll do our best here. Here is some of the acronyms that have changed and some of the verbiage and terminology out in the field. As you can see, it tries to flow with some of the new infrastructure that's out there today, and again, just a basic understanding for the techs out in the field utilizing these acronyms. Why should you care about labeling standards? I get that all the time. Again, I really practice this stuff. I preach this stuff. And again, it needs to be clear, structured labeling, which is a mark of a pro. You're the contractor going in there. You want to leave a lasting impression. That's either going to be a good lasting impression, or you may never get called back. So again, labeling is the last thing you do, right, before you basically turn the job over, right? I shouldn't say that, the certification after labeling. So now they can help reduce errors and save time and money. Again, extra labor is more money spent, and why do that? So again, if this is followed the way that it's lined out here, you're not going to have the problems with identification, a tech sitting around with the tone and probe kit, if you will. And at the end of the day, your customer's paying for that. So you want to give your customer the best bang for the buck. The customers themselves, all right, are writing these into the project specs. Now, what I do from my end is I work with consultants out there. There is a brother spec available for anyone who is interested out there. I have written a brother spec that is 606C heavy, if you will. It does outline the different tapes to use for the different applications, and it outlines the brother printers to use with those tapes. A brief overview of the standard. We got classes of administration, and we'll go through that. We'll run through that real briefly. We have optional identifiers for infrastructure elements, color coding identification, which color coding is not mandatory, by the way. I believe they tried to make it mandatory with 606B, and it just really didn't go anywhere. But I think it's a good idea for identification. And we'll get into that a little bit. Permanent labels. Right, you want something that is going to withstand the environment. If you're in a data center environment, it's going to get pretty hot. If you're doing a building entrance feed, right, that comes from a pet outside, you want something that is going to not only withstand the heat, but withstand the cold as well. Linkage and reports. Very important, very, very, very important factor to 606C. All right, is your record keeping of this. Again, remember I talked about that IT guy leaving with that tribal knowledge, and I used to make a lot of money off of that. These IT guys would come and go, and I go back in, and one way of labeling made no sense whatsoever to the next IT director coming in, so I get a call, and I go in and relabel everything. So I actually made a lot of money off people not using 606C standards. Automated infrastructure management systems, right? And also addressing identification for your patch cords, direct equipment cables, telecommunication grounding systems, ID, your graphical symbologies, and drawing elements of administration. Why is it important? It sets a predictable logical system of identifying key network assets and connections, where they are located and how and what they're each connected to. You want to know where that cable is going to on the other end. And we can accomplish this many different ways. But again, the 606C standard clearly identifies how and where that cable goes, to what port, to what rack, to what floor, if you will. All right. And again, there's a couple graphics coming up. I'll show you exactly how that works. Once that infrastructure is properly marked in accordance with the standard, it becomes an easier, more efficient to troubleshoot and manage reliably. I got to tell you, I hate reading off of these things. So again, if you do want this available, we can send it to you. There's a lot of graphics in here. Please pay attention to. The one graphic on the right obviously shows some examples of the labeling standard and how it should be. All right, apply the standard now. Your customers will thank you later. Again, it becomes easier for them to identify. The majority of the IT guys out there that have all their certifications MCSE, blah, blah, blah. My brother's one of those guys, propeller heads. They also have to go through infrastructure and training on infrastructure. And, you know, part of that is the 606C. So again, it makes their life a hell of a lot easier. Labeling requirements, and again, these are what is required out there. All labels should be printed and generated with a mechanical device. I'm hoping you're using Brother. If you're not, as long as you're not using a Sharpie and some tape, that is not acceptable. I still see it, but it's not acceptable, all right? Cable and pathways must be labeled on both ends. Must meet UL 969 spec for legibility, defacement, and adhesion. Look up UL 969. It's actually quite lengthy, all right? Station connections may be labeled on the faceplate, all right, or the workstation outlet, if you will. The jack connector and block hardware can be labeled on the outlet or panel. Use the right labeling tool for the job. You need to use professional grade material. Consumer grade may be cheaper up front. We talked about that last week as far as consumer grade. This is a consumer grade, and I used a hell of a lot of these out in the field with the Brother M tape. And I still run into some of that out there, and it's a paper tape. Now, it was acceptable back then. It's not now, all right? So onward. Oh boy, classes of administration, blah, 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 all right? However, this is very important as far as the different classes, and I've got some graphics later on to show you the types of different classes, but your class 1 is your single ER. Your class 2 is your single building served by multiple TRs, if you will, all right? Your class 3 is a campus environment, which most of us are involved in campus environments. Your class 4 is your multi-site, all right, if you have remote campuses, all right? So there's your classes of administration that 606C follows out here. What needs to be labeled, all right? Your TR spaces, your pathways and cabling. Fire stopping locations are very, very important, as well as your bonding and your grounding. So as an example, all right, right off the bat, your building entrance. Then we go to your TR, your telecommunications room. Next is your equipment room with switches, servers, routers, passive and active electronics. We get into the pathways as far as your horizontal pathways, your backbone and inter-building pathways, as well as your fire stop, bonding, and grounding. And I think this is a great illustration of a infrastructure that is built out that will show you exactly what needs to be labeled. And again, if you need this, let us know, and this can certainly be shared with others as well. If you're a contractor, if you are a consultant out there, this is a great little tool, all right? So here's some more things that need to be labeled, obviously grounding and bonding. Let's see, what are we doing? We're kind of doing the same thing with this. Here's kind of the mappage, road mappage, if you will, of a 606C identifier roadmap. And it may be hard to comprehend in the time we have together today, but again, it identifies the floor, the telecom room, the patch panel, the port position, the cabinet ID, port in that cabinet, patch panel inside there. So if you're in a data center environment, again, this makes it very easy. Instead of having 3, 4, 5 lines of information that's proprietary, again, if that standard is used in that environment, it makes life a lot easier. Some more examples on the right as far as your TRs, your racks, your panel locations, and your port identifiers. So what's required? All labels should be printed and generated with mechanical devices. Absolutely. Again, I hope you're using Brother. If not, please use Brother, all right? If you can't quite get there yet, as long as they are printed on a mechanical device and not one of these old mechanical device, again, use industrial strength tapes, if you will, and again, mechanically generated. I've talked about for weeks and weeks, doing everything manually like this, which I used to do. There's no reason with today's technology, with the Brothers machines, you can take an Excel spreadsheet of your 606C labeling identifiers, and you can actually preload those in the machine, which again makes life a lot easier and it's less time consuming, and time is money, right? So you want to use the right labeling tool for the job. There's a tip on the bottom there: match your label stock with the applications. All right. In Brothers' case, we have different types of tapes. We have a flexible ID that is primarily meant for cable wraps and flags. We have a regular TZE tape, which is meant for smooth, flat surfaces. And then we have the extra strength tape, which if you're doing any type of labeling on powder coated surfaces, a lot of the racks and cabinets are powder coated out there. They have micro nooks and crannies. And so our extra strength adhesive has got a softer adhesive that gets inside those little micro nooks and crannies. So again, use the right tape for that application out there. Some other requirements: records are very, very, very important. Again, as a contractor, what I used to do is map everything out. I would either use a cable management software, some DSIM type of stuff, but I'd always leave a map in there of every closet I went to, again, which not only made it easier for the IT director, but if my guys were not familiar with the building, they can go back in, take a look at the map and the records, and identify that infrastructure very quickly. And the alternative is, like I said before, using tone and tag identification, which is very, very time consuming. You can get the job done with it, but again, you don't want to go through that process. We talked about the color coding. Color coding labels, it is not a requirement. The standard includes a process to identify without requiring colors out there. All right, if colors are used, there is a section of 606C that basically tells you about the colors. I can remember very clearly years ago when all these colors started coming out, I had customers that wanted red labels on, at that time it was Cat 3, man, maybe even Cat 4. So red labels are associated with what? Fire, right? Your fire suppression system. So that's kind of why they really don't require it, but be careful of the colors that you use out there. You may have a customer like the University of Hawaii. They love the black on green, all right? It matches their school colors. So again, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but refer to that Pantone table in section 2.2.2. All right, some labeling options. I'm a big fan of QR codes, and I keep pressing these QR codes. And there's no reason why you can't take all of that information that you're seeing there, BB11-44, blah, 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 05, backslash KB12-40, blah, blah, blah. All right, now it definitely means something. And if you know 606C, you're going to know what that means. But why not take that information and put it in a QR code? And then use your phone. Go up with your phone and scan that, and you're going to get exactly what that label has embedded inside that QR code. So again, it's an option to think about. How much time do I have left? 10:23. All right. So there's just an option for you there. Things to remember: clear structure labeling is the mark of a professional out there. Very, very important. ANSI 606C extends the reach of the previous 606. You ever have one of those days? All right. Oh, by the way, 10 weeks in a bottle. 10 weeks in a bottle. Water over here, oil over here. There. Okay, I'm back. Use professional grade labels and the right labeling tool to do that. You want a very efficient labeling tool to do the job with. Again, time is money. So please use the right tool out there for that particular job. Again, you got different size labels, and some of our printers only go up to, let's say, an 18 millimeter or 3/4 inch, but you may want a 1 inch. The customer may want a 1 inch printer. Well, we have printers that will do that as well. So again, keep that in mind when you're out there as far as labeling. Really, that's it. You know, and I'm quite proud of myself because it's 10:24. We've mowed through this thing. This typically is an hour-and-a-half course. I know, and I've got to do some audio on this. I've got to overdub some audio, and this is what we're going to put up onto the brothermobilesolutions.com, and you'll be able to access this, go through the presentation, and at the end of it, you'll be able to get some Bixby CECs. If there are any questions on the standards, how to apply the standards, please reach out to Jamie. I'm more than willing to help you one-on-one develop a system that's very clear and very easy to use. I'm also available when everything opens up a little bit to go out there and do live training on this, all right? I may tweak this a little bit, but again, once everything opens up, then I will be able to go out and offer this class one-on-one in a classroom environment and be able to offer the 606C standards as well. So again, this was a compressed version of the 606C standards. I highly recommend, if you do want to expand on today's half hour that we've had together, please get with Jamie. Please request this presentation. I'm more than happy to share. And then if you have any questions beyond that, contact us directly. And speaking of contacting us directly, Kelly, can you throw up on the screen? In fact, you know what? Let me stop sharing. Ah, there I am. So Miss Swift out there, well, let's talk about the upcoming schedule first. June 25th, security applications. Now, when I say security applications, remember, most of security is running over low voltage, twisted pair, if you will, and going back to passive and active electronics. And the majority of the companies out there that are doing datacom work are also doing security applications. I'll go further into security, a little bit of access control. We'll talk about some WAPs. We'll talk about cameras. We'll definitely talk more about barcoding. I've got some ideas that'll just blow your mind as far as utilizing barcoding and asset management for the security applications. We'll take a little bit of time off, let everybody kind of decompress from this Zoom stuff. We'll go into electrical applications. The vast majority of the electrical contractors out there that I found are also doing low voltage. So again, I think there's something that we'll be able to put together for everyone there. July 16th, I'll bring back Mr. Dan Cobb, reluctantly, but he's been begging me. And anyway, Dan did a good job last time. So Dan primarily deals in MRO. He's going to be talking about warehouse and manufacturing applications. As far as the brother team, Kelly, if you would, put us up on the screen. Here is how to contact the Brother Industrial Solutions team. As you know, I'm Todd. I'm here in Carlsbad, California. I cover everything west of the Mississippi. So anybody in that territory, I'm your man. Mr. Jamie Brookover is out of Virginia Beach. Mr. Dan Cobb, which I just mentioned, he'll be on in a couple of weeks. He covers the MRO segment. Mr. Bruce Page, also on the east out there. Rob Dawkins deals in the manufacturing and warehouse sector. All right, so if you have any interest there or any needs, please contact Rob as well. And then our glorious leader, Mr. Craig Robinson, resides out of Bradenton, Florida. Man, that's got to be hot and nasty out there. But again, any complaints or that you have about me, direct them to Craig. He loves to hear that stuff. With that being said, it's 10:29. So we're going to have a poll at the end of this. Please stick around for the poll. Please tune in next week. We got a real good show next week. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you need some bad advice, I'm always open to bad advice. Trust me. Please contact me at any time. With that being said, please take the poll. Have yourself a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye.